Hi, I'm Pam, and this is my monthly update video letting you know all the things that I was up to in December. Hey everyone, I hope you had a very happy new year and a good holiday. This video is coming out a little late because I had all my efforts on getting my best of the year video out as close to the beginning of January as possible. I like to release that in January because December games tend to get forgotten about in most of the Game of the Year lists because everyone is so eager to get them out before Christmas. That's where all the ad money is, right before Christmas. But yeah, I finally got that out, so making this now. If you missed any of my end of year content, I made a most disappointing games of the year, which only had 4 games on it, which isn't too bad, I think. I wasn't disappointed by a whole lot last year. I also made a video going over all of the 2024 Metroidvanias that I played. There was 13 that I played. It was an absolutely fantastic year for Metroidvanias. The majority of the games I really liked, so check that out if you haven't yet. And finally, I put out my best of 2024 video, which had a top 10 along with 5 honorable mentions. So pretty good good year for gaming in general. Also, a big update is that I reached 100,000 subscribers yesterday, which I'm very excited about. I want to say thank you so much to everyone who is subscribed, who stays subscribed. If you're not subscribed, why not? And everyone who watches my videos and comments. I really appreciate it. I had a goal to get to 100,000 last year, and I was like this close. It was like the 31st, and I was like 18 away or something. So yesterday I managed to watch it tick over from 99,999 over to 100, and that was very gratifying and made me feel really good. So thank you so much. I'm very excited to get that YouTube plaque at some point. Now, it was just Christmas, and I got a lot of lovely Christmas gifts, but not a whole lot of gaming-related stuff to show off. I did get a few sort of merch things about a game that I'm sure you can guess. I got a new Hollow Knight t-shirt. Just got Hornet on here. We're just gonna like manifest Silk Song coming out at some point. Also, my favorite pajama pants are these Hollow Knight pajama pants. They're from Fangamer. I got these not these. I got a pair of them maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I love them. I wore them so much that I just like wore them right out. So I got a replacement pair. They're just like super stretchy waist, really soft and comfy to wear. They have big old pockets in them. They're awesome. If you like gaming clothing merch, Fangamer stuff is all really good. Like, I love that they have women cut t-shirts, not just unisex. Everything like fits really nice, is really soft materials. And the last thing is just a little grub that I got in my stocking. He's super cute. He sits on the bookcase and tries not to get eaten. So now onto the games that I played, and I played through so many games in December. I was playing all the 2024 games I could get my hands on, just trying to be as informed as possible before making my decisions on best games of the year. So this is probably going to take a while. A few of these did get mentioned in my best of list, but I will talk about them a little more comprehensively here. The first game I finished in December was Dragon Age: The Veilguard. This came out in October by BioWare, of course, and overall, I really liked it. I had a great time with it. I've been a Dragon Age fan for a while. I've played all of the games sort of when they released and have enjoyed each and every one of them. We've been waiting for Veilguard for quite a long time, and it finally came out, and I thought they did a pretty good job. It's definitely a little lighter than tone than you might be used to, especially if you're comparing it directly to Origins. It's more action-y, I think, although I've kind of always played the Dragon Age games, other than Origin, as a sort of action-y game. If anything, I would compare it to Inquisition in terms of like combat and gameplay. But just going back, just to like the main gameplay, running around the world, exploring, I really like that bit. I think this is the most beautiful Dragon Age game. I'm not a person who takes a lot of screenshots in games, but this is one that actually made me want to take screenshots, just like lots of huge statues looming in the distance and weird tree human hybrid things, which is like my specific aesthetic interest. Just absolutely gorgeous game. I really liked running through the world. It just felt nice to run around. There was a little tiny bit of platforming. I still think putting a jump in Dragon Age was a mistake, but I got used to it after a bit. The different areas are large, but not overwhelmingly so. Like, Inquisition had those huge open areas that took forever to explore. These areas are large, but they have paths. You can't just go anywhere, jump up a mountain. You have paths you can go through. Sometimes you'll come across a barrier you won't be able to open until maybe you approach it from the other side. Then you can unlock it and have a little shortcut there. So you can go off the beaten path and find chests and collectibles and little secrets, but it's not overwhelming where you feel like you need to scour every inch of a huge area in order to find everything. It's just sort of like a nice, satisfying amount of exploration. Also, the different areas are so different. You're going through forests and cities and ruins. Just really cool in terms of design, the areas. Sometimes maybe they didn't make a lot of sense if I thought logically, but just turn off your logic part of your brain and just appreciate like how absolutely gorgeous all of these environments are. In terms of the combat, it is sort of like Inquisition, very actiony. I played a mage, so a lot of the time is spent, waving your staff at things, sending fireballs or ice or lightning or whichever magic you're sort of spec'd into at your enemies. You get 3 main hotkeys for spells, like big spells that have big cooldowns that you can cast at enemies. You get 2 people in your party with you, and you don't control them directly, but you can tell them like, oh, focus on this enemy, or oh, use this ability now. You can combo different abilities, which will have increasing effects on any enemies. It's also, you have to be quite spry, like there's a lot of dodging involved, especially if you take any aggro. Enemies will charge at you and try to hit you, and you'll need to dodge away from any attacks. So it's kind of combat I've seen in a lot of games, and like it's not my absolute favorite way to do combat, but I thought it was overall pretty enjoyable and fun. I liked the different spells. You have a huge big talent tree, and you can sort of spec into different directions that will, like, I sort of went more into like the necrotic magic and things like that, whereas you can go into more of the control. You can drain enemy health. I didn't really look at the thief or the rogue or the warrior trees, but I really liked playing a mage. I also really liked the equipment in this game. It's much more streamlined than any other game, which I like because loot is the most annoying part of any RPG to me. I don't like just dealing with lots of stuff. So you have your armor, I think you've got a helmet, you've got your weapon, and then like rings, maybe one accessory or something. And as you go, you find or you buy these different items, and you can then find the same item again, and it just like upgrades it to a higher rarity, which I love. I'd much rather just upgrade something I already have than have 600 different pieces of armor to choose from, which don't really do anything differently. If you saw my Cat Quest 2 video a little while ago, which not many people did, that was one of my favorite things about that game, how it handled the loot and just having a set amount of items and then you upgrade them rather than just increasing how many different things there are. You can also enchant your items and upgrade them at your home base. I did find the items were really interesting. Like when I changed up my armor and my accessories, I found myself playing in combat in a completely different way. So I did really like that the armor could actually have an effect that impacted your gameplay, not just like, oh, this has a higher crit chance. And then speaking of your base, that's one of my favorite parts of the game. That was also one of my favorite things in Inquisition. You've got this amazing looking base where all your companions gather. Each of your companions gets their own little area, like someone set up in a cubby behind the kitchen, someone set out in a rocky outcropping or in a little tower, and each of your companions, as the game goes on, sort of decorates and builds out their space to really reflect who they are and what they like. One of your first companions, Harding, who is also an Inquisition, she loves plants. So whereas she starts out in this sort of little rocky house, as the game goes on, it just gets more and more greenery around it that she's planted. And I like that kind of progression and reflection of your companion characters. I also really liked the companions in the game. They start out not the absolute most interesting, but as it goes, I really found that I liked a lot of them and I really liked all of their stories. Harding is a really good one. She's got a great story around, being a dwarf and dwarven history and sort of dwarven magic that you haven't heard of before. My favorite companion is probably Emmerich, who is a necromancer. He's got a little skeleton companion named Manfred, who is my absolute favorite. I love Manfred. Davrin is also a really great character. He's a Grey Warden, and with him and all his quests come a lot of information and cool Grey Warden stuff that I'd been wanting to hear since Dragon Age Origins. They're sort of my favorite faction in the world for sure. So there was like a lot of really cool Warden stuff. You get to go to Weishaupt, and there's a huge big battle that happens there. There's griffins. Oh my god, there's griffins. Sorry if that's a spoiler, but I was so fucking excited when I saw that there was a griffin. So really good story there. I really like Bolara, who is an elven mage who looks at old, ancient, elvish technologies and magics. Just a lot of fun, really good conversations with them. I've heard complaints that everything in this game is a little too positive. I don't think it's too positive. I do find, like, even if you give the sassy answer to your companions, you're still being pretty nice. Like, you can't really be an asshole in this game. So if your RP dreams are to go in and be a dick to all your companions, then this isn't the game for you. But I liked all the conversations. I found the writing was overall pretty good. And, you're trying to build a cohesive group of people to take on God. So you probably want everyone to like each other and, not rub each other the wrong way. So I didn't have too much of a problem with the sort of lack of negativity in the game. I loved all the companion side stories. There were a few that, made me cry. There was one time I definitely cried in the game. But I liked all the stories. All of the side quests in the game, most of them have something to do with one of your companions. So I ended up doing, I think, every quest in the game because I really wanted to further my relationship and find out more about all of the companions. I also think that the game has just a fantastic ending. It ends with a mission very reminiscent of Mass Effect 2, where you really have to consider the relationships you've built with every companion, what their strengths and weaknesses are, and you need to make decisions based on that information. And sometimes they're hard decisions. If you weren't as much of a completionist as I was, I'm pretty sure that mission could go very, very poorly. My mission did not go very poorly. I also never lost anyone in Mass Effect 2. So, but it did feel very tense and like it was actually a dangerous situation. And I really like how it wrapped up the story in general, as well as each companion's specific story. I was a tiny bit disappointed with the romance. Not so much the romance. I thought the romance conversations were all right. Was a little disappointed with the sex scene. Could have been sexier. Yeah, so I like Dragon Age the Veilguard a lot. I probably spent 60 to 70 hours with it. I really wanted to explore everything. There's some interesting little, pretty simple puzzles that you can do out in the environment. I loved sort of unlocking more of each area as you go. There's a really good fast travel system that opens up almost immediately, but it's also fun just to walk through the world and explore it and see what you can find. Have gotten a lot of comments over on my best of the year of people kind of shitting on Dragon Age, which if you've played it and you don't think it's fun, that's cool. you don't have to like every game, but so many of the people seem like they haven't played it. They just watched some YouTuber tell them it was shit, or they watched some out of context 1-minute clip and went, oh, this dialogue is cringe, and now they need to shit on it everywhere they see it, which is honestly just sad. Like, if you don't like something, that's cool, but just go find something you do like and do that. Like, I like being critical of games. You know, most of my videos are positive, but I try to, you know, say when I don't like something or when I think something could have been done better. But that's one thing. It's another thing to go up to someone who's like, wow, I really love this, and just comment, no, it sucks. Like, get another hobby or something. All right, I feel like I just talked about Dragon Age for 15 minutes, so this is gonna be a long video. Just like buckle in for this one. So the next game I played is Mouthwashing. This is another 2024 release. In fact, these are all except one 2024 releases, so I'm gonna stop saying the year. This is developed by Wrong Organ. This is a space horror game, and space horror is like my favorite subgenre for movies or video games. It takes place on a freight ship, and right at the beginning there is a collision which causes some catastrophic events, as you would expect. And the game is very time hoppy, so you keep going from before the collision and after the collision, sort of what leads up to it and how you're going to try to survive after it. It has a PS1 kind of aesthetic with, you know, kind of ugly characters. It's interesting looking. It's like not attractive looking, but it's interesting looking. And a lot of people like got super into this game, and I think it's like a good game, like goodish. I guess my issue with it is that I've kind of seen it all before. I mean, again, I love space horror, so like space horror survival situations, like locked room kind of things, like I've seen a lot of it, so nothing was terribly surprising. There was one sort of twist that I did like and was pretty effective, but overall the kind of conversations and things were, I guess, just kind of expected, which doesn't make them bad. It just like didn't excite me as much as it did for some people. My biggest problem with this game is that while most of it you're just sort of walking around, having conversations, finding an item, using an item, near the end they really try to like shoehorn more gamey mechanics into it that I don't think particularly work. Like, I think it does a good job of atmosphere and having like weird surreal visuals, but then when they try to put in like a kind of stealthy component or a little like mazy combat stealth bit, these aren't very good descriptions, but when they try to do that and they put you in situations where, oh, you die and then you have to go and try again, I don't really feel like it adds anything to the game other than just a feeling of frustration and wasted time. So I think the game had enough going for it, just in terms of the atmosphere and the visual presentation and the sort of out of order storytelling, that it didn't really need those extra kind of annoying gameplay bits. But overall, I thought Mouthwashing was alright. The next game I played is Sheepy, a short adventure developed by Mr. Suicide Sheep. And this is a tiny little bite-sized Metroidvania. It's got nice pixel art, the music's very good. You play a sheep and you're exploring an sort of underground, I don't know, it's like a mining thing or like a station of some kind, but it's obviously been abandoned. Bad things have happened there. You find little voice memos that let you know what's happening. There are some boss fights. You don't really do damage, so it's mostly about avoiding damage on these boss fights. And you go along and you pick up new abilities as you go, and you go through the game. And I thought it was all pretty decent. Like, it played nicely, it was aesthetically appealing, it's just like very bite-sized, so there wasn't like a whole lot for me to really sink my teeth into, especially as a Metroidvania lover. Like, what I like is exploration and like backtracking and getting to know a space, and this was like, it went too fast for that to really be something that the game offered. But it was neat. Some of the abilities, there's one where you just like go really fast, which was kind of fun. I was upset at one point because while the whole game made me think that I could control it with the D-pad, and I could for the most part, eventually you get an item that I was not able to properly control with the D-pad. I had to use the stick, and there was a few moments of frustration where I was like, why can't I make this jump? Why isn't this working? And had to figure out I had to use the stick to use it. So that was kind of annoying and did just kind of like bump down my whole experience by a bit, because that was like 20% of the experience. So yeah, Sheepy, a short adventure, was good. Next, my co-op group, always on the lookout for more games. We played Call of Duty Black Ops 6, specifically the zombie mode. I have played a few Call of Duties. I played a few campaigns. This zombie mode is way different than any of the others I've played. Usually, at least in my experience, the Call of Duty zombies is like, you're in a house or a theater or something, and you're just like bunkered down and you're boarding up windows and you're trying to, you know, save this one spot. In Black Ops 6, the zombies is almost like a little mini campaign. Like, it's quite a lengthy mission full of objectives, like go turn on this computer and talk to this guy. There's even some puzzles in it, which I absolutely wasn't expecting. Overall, it was really fun. I felt like I went into it with the wrong mindset. So when I think of zombie mode, I think of, oh, things are just gonna keep getting worse and worse and worse, so let's hurry on to these objectives. That was not the correct call for how to play that game. Instead, you need to really kill a lot of zombies. You build up like the currency in the game, and then you can either buy new weapons or upgrade your weapons. You can add like frost effects or fire effects. The best thing was this thing called the Pack-a-Punch, which just increases your weapon power exponentially as you go. So it was more a matter of balancing killing things, gaining currency, upgrading, and then deciding when you were strong enough to continue on with the mission. And it was a lot of fun. We actually we were working on this one particular one on this sort of island research center, I think, and we haven't beat it yet. We tried it a few times and got real close to the end. I think we died on the final boss. We got to the final boss once and weren't able to do it, so we might go back at some point. I do have to say though, if you take a step back, just like getting to zombie mode is like its own hard mode. The menus on this game are so obtuse, they're so convoluted, the text is little teeny tiny, there's 7,000 links to the store and things to buy. Apparently there's 6 Call of Duty games in this one Call of Duty game, so just navigating from the start screen to zombies was harder than most games I've played this year. Like, it was really quite ridiculous. It's a very stupid user interface. But other than that, once you get into the game, pretty fun. God, I sound like such a boomer. How do I get into this video game? In my day, you just put the cartridge in. The next game I played is called Symphonia, and this was developed by Sunny Peak. This is a absolutely gorgeous precision platformer. You play a violinist and you're trying to gather members of an orchestra to put the orchestra back together again. This world of automatons has sort of fallen into disrepair, and you use music to bring it all back to life. It's all very beautiful. It's got a soundtrack done by a full orchestra, which is amazing. The art is so pretty. It's like this very painterly kind of thing, and it's also like very warm, like just like these warm wood tones of like the instruments, and it's just like very cozy feeling. There's no combat or anything. That said, it was hard. Like, it got me stumped a number of times. You use your bow to do things, like you can sort of double jump or bounce off things by flicking your bow. You can stick onto sort of cushiony surfaces and then tilt yourself and like launch yourself in one direction or another. There's timing puzzles, there's a ton of spikes that can kill you. Sometimes there's wind and you're floating and controlling yourself as you go. It is the kind of game where you start a level and then you have to sort of get to the next save point, otherwise you go right back to the start, which was the cause of a little bit of frustration on a few levels until I managed to figure them out. But overall, it was just really fun, just a nice package, like this beautiful theme and music and just very satisfying levels to play. You get new abilities as you go, so you can always go back to old levels to get collectibles that you might have missed the first time. There's music notes, there's letters that describe more of the story. It is a shorter game. I think my first time it was like 3 or 4 hours to get to the end, but then I wanted to go back and collect things, so I spent another couple hours with it. But yeah, it was really good. There was some really fun chase sequences. I always love a chase sequence in a platformer. So yeah, if you like precision platformers, then Symphonia, beautiful. Next game I finished is called Tactical Breach Wizards, and this is developed by Suspicious Developments. I heard about this one earlier in the year and it seemed like the kind of thing I would like, so I wanted to get it in before the end of the year, and I absolutely loved it. This is a tactical sort of puzzly game, very narrative focused. You play a group of mercenary wizards with various powers who have banded together and they're trying to stop a war. You're fighting police departments and private armies and religious dictatorships, and it's very mission based. So you go, you find a mission, you breach into somewhere and enemies will be set up and you have to see the best way to kill them before they kill you. There's nothing chance based, like there's no like mischance or anything. You have your abilities, they do what they say they will do. You can also hover over an enemy and see how they behave, if they'll just shoot the person closest to them or they'll run and try and hit the alarm. The enemies behave very predictably in that way, so it's a puzzle of trying to figure out the best way to do this. And there's multiple ways. It's not just like there's one solution for each mission. And as you go, they get longer and longer. The first couple missions, like one turn and it's over. Also, because you're wizards, you can rewind time, so you can do everyone's turn and then see how it would play out. And if it doesn't play out the way you hoped, you can rewind back to the start of the turn and try it again, or just rewind back one character and get them to do something different. So it's very fun that way. Also, the story and the writing are absolutely fantastic. This is like one of the funniest games I've played recently. All of the wizards are a little bit neurotic. They're kind of a bunch of lovable idiots who build relationships with each other as you go. Before you breach into a room to start a mission, they have a little conversation that's usually funny. One of the things I really liked is that while you're at your base, each character will have an anxiety dream where they basically just talk to themselves and get through some, mental hurdles they're having, but also it really helps you to master that character's ability because you're just using multiple versions of that one character to get through every puzzle, and then completing them will also give you a new ability because they've learned something new about themselves. And it's all just very clever. Like, I love the magic system, all of the different abilities. It even describes like how the wizards came into their abilities and like what inspired the ability to come out. And it's just very clever, very, very funny. And yeah, I highly recommend Tactical Breach Wizards if you like tactics or puzzles or just very good writing.
Yeah.
Come here, Lily Bear.
No. God damn it. Why?
Oh, there's Lily. Yay, Lily. Hi, little bear. Hi, little bear. I'm sorry. We keep waking you up. We're like those abusive parents who just put their child on the internet without their consent. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not that sorry, though. People want to see you. Yeah, they like you. Hey, can we kiss? No. Alright, she's done being on camera now. The next game I played is called Is This Game Trying to Kill Me? And it is by Stately Snail. And it's sort of a puzzly kind of escape room game. You start off locked in a cabin, and there's various sort of things along the wall. There's like a clock with some symbols and books and various things, and then there is a computer in the middle of the room, and you go on the computer and you play a little top-down action game that has similar things. So you might find a series of symbols, and then you have to look up from the computer and look around the room and figure out how they relate to each other and solve the puzzle. And as you do that, something could change in the room around you. You could open up new rooms of the cabin to go through. And the game often is trying to kill you. I did die a number of times when I didn't pay enough attention or was like, well, maybe this will work. Nope, I died. It's very reminiscent. Like at the beginning, it's very like Inscription-like of being trapped in this cabin with little puzzles around you and then going into sort of a game within the game. I thought this was decent to all right. Again, another game where I'm like, yeah, that was fine. It just felt kind of, I've played this before, but I played a better version of it. So it's fun, but once you sort of realize what you're doing, you go in the computer game, find something, and then you go find the answer in the real 3D world around you, and various puzzles like that. It does put some sort of reflex-based combat in it, which I didn't think worked particularly well, just with the rest of the gameplay. But some of the puzzles were pretty clever. It's a fairly short game. I think it was like 2.5 hours to beat the whole thing. So it was a nice little single sitting experience. But yeah, I think there's better of these games out there, but this is not bad. Next, I played Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, and I thought it was great. I was really excited about this because I love what Machine Games did with Wolfenstein New Order and Wolfenstein the New Colossus, is that the second one? And I was excited to get to play Indiana Jones. I've always been a big Indiana Jones fan. I watched that original trilogy so many times as like a child and a young teenager. So I was excited to get to play Indy. I thought it worked really well. Like it opens it up and it just recreates the entire first scene from Raiders, which is very fun and definitely got me into the Indy mindset. And then it just gets better from there. An artifact gets stolen from the museum at the school you teach at, and then you sort of have to globetrot and find why it was stolen, and you fight a lot of Nazis, as you always do in Indiana Jones. You visit the Vatican and Giza. Yeah, just really fun, really good, especially when you're in sort of one of the set piece locations. So like when you're in a tomb, going through sort of lighting pots of oil, lighting up your way, finding puzzles where you really have to like bounce light off things onto plates or pay attention to your surroundings to figure out where to put statues or which murals to push, things like that. And then it blends in action scenes where you're running from rushing water or you're using your whip to swing across gaps. Just a lot of fun. I liked the gameplay a lot. There is also sort of a open world component, like in each area you can wander around and there are side quests to do. I did them all in the Vatican area, although I started just sort of mainlining it after that. I found like Giza was a little too open, a little too much travel time to really want to spend time on side quests, but all of the main story stuff was just a lot of fun. The exploration is really good too, like as you're going through, you're finding locked doors, you're opening shortcuts, just the kind of thing that I really like when it comes to exploring a game. Also, the performances were amazing. Like Troy Baker does amazing Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones impression. I loved Gina, who's your sort of sidekick in this game. She's a lot of fun. She's very funny. Just like a really good foil, bounces off Indy very well. The story was absolutely fitting. It just felt like it could be another movie. Like, I felt like I was right in the movie. Like, the writing and the tone and everything were just absolutely perfect. When it comes to criticisms of the game, I'm not a huge fan of the stealth. Like, it kind of makes you feel like it's an immersive sim, but not really. You can, you know, throw a bottle to make someone look over the other way. I found the stealth wasn't great, but also the enemy AI was pretty dumb, so it didn't really matter that the stealth wasn't great. Like, if you kill or knock someone out, you can move their body, which at first I was doing, and then I was like, I don't really need to do this. If someone finds it, I'll just hide in a corner and they'll go away. So I felt like the stealth was a little half-baked, but I also didn't mind because I didn't really want to be doing that much stealth. But it was still very satisfying if you were, you know, stealthing around, came up behind a Nazi, and then had a hammer and use it to, like, take them out at the knees and then smack them in the head, which maybe I was killing them. That sounds like a lot for a knockout, but that's fine. Yeah, so it was satisfying. There's also like first person just punching, which is also like really crunchy and feels good. Actually, my biggest complaint is that the final boss fight is real dumb, like just a stupid final boss fight. But other than that, I found just like all of the exploration, all of the puzzle solving, all of just the being indie was absolutely fantastic. Next game I played is called Loco Motive. This is by Robust Games. This is a point-and-click adventure that very much reminded me of old LucasArts adventure games. This takes place on a train, which is always fun. You play 3 characters as you go by. It starts, the head of a very wealthy family is going to either sell her company or pass her company on to someone. Everyone's waiting for her to make a decision, but before she does, she is killed. So you start out the game playing her lawyer, who has lost the copy of the will and is trying to see who killed her because he's become a suspect, and so you're sort of going through this train, talking to people, solving inventory puzzles. I thought this was gorgeous. Like, the pixel art's really nice, the voice acting is top notch, I really liked the music. Most of the puzzles were pretty decent. I liked them. There's also an in-game hint system, which I really liked, and it is an incremental hint system, which really is helpful for adventure games. I feel like they should all have that kind of thing. I played it over on Twitch, and I had a decently good time with it. But I felt it's one of those games that could have benefited from an editor. Like, the dialogue is good, like the writing is good, but there's just too much of it. And there were times when it was just talk, 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 talk. And I was sitting there being like, can I play now? Like, can I do something other than just listen to dialogue for 20 minutes at a stretch? So yeah, it was good. Like, all of the parts were good. I just wish they could have been a little more concise with things. It could have been shorter. I think it was around 8-ish hours long, which did feel a little long in the tooth to me. But yeah, just very pretty game, good writing, good performances. I just wanted a little more game. The next game I finished, and the only one that wasn't from 2024, is Guacamelee 2. This is from 2018 from Drinkbox Studios. I've been playing this with Dylan over the last few months. We've been playing co-op. I played Guacamelee 1 before this a few years ago and thought it was a decent Metroidvania. This one is very similar. Like, it's a very similar game. I played the first one single player, which I think it's only single player, but this one you can apparently play with up to 4 players, which honestly sounds like a nightmare. But 2 players was fun. It's a luchador game. It's got bright, color blocky kind of levels. It's pretty funny in terms of the dialogue. It's all about melee-based combos and different kind of attacks that not only work on your enemies, but also open up different paths through levels. It is more of a linear Metroidvania, like there's sort of an overworld and then you go into a dungeon and you probably aren't going to go back into that dungeon again as you go, but there are collectibles and things you could go back for, chests with coins and things. As you go, you can level up all your different abilities. One of my favorite things about it is that there are chicken levels. You turn into a chicken and the chicken has its own different abilities and its own different platforming strengths and weaknesses, which I really like. And then one of the big things about this game is that you can go between sort of the living world and the undead world with the hit of a button. So that's where a lot of the platforming challenges come in, because the world will change. So you're sort of going back and forth between the two worlds to get platforms to appear or make spikes disappear, things like that. Overall, I had a good time with this. I feel like the combat was more fun in co-op. It was just nice to have another set of fists and feet to beat up enemies with. I did find the platforming, just because that world switching, it makes it way more difficult with two people. Like, design-wise, I think they did the best thing they could to make it work. So if you press, I don't remember, buttons might be wrong, but like right bumper, it switches the world. So you see the different world on screen. Whereas if you press right trigger, it just switches you and which world you're in. So if you're doing something, playing co-op, rather than like having to time every single jump with your partner, you can just control yourself and what world you're in so that you don't have to like be completely in sync. So I think like they did the absolute best they could in terms of giving you options of how you want to do it, but it could still be pretty frustrating to dealing with the dual world thing and two people trying to go through a level at the same time. It was also annoying in times when like I was player one, so it wanted to follow me. So even if Dylan got like further in a platforming section than I was, the camera wouldn't follow him and he would go off the screen and die because I was like lagging behind, which wasn't really fun for anyone. But overall, I liked it. The story was fun. I liked the writing. The combat, I'm not usually a big fan of melee combo-based combat, but it was pretty fun here. I liked how everything was color-coded, so it was pretty clear whenever I needed to do something. And I also just really liked the chicken levels, especially. So yeah, Guacamelee 2, pretty decent, pretty similar to the first game. The next thing I played is called Clickholding, which is by Strange Scaffold. And this is a weird fucking game. It's, you have a clicker, you're sitting in a hotel room across from a man in a weird kind of horse mask, and he's telling you to click this clicker. Click it faster, click it slower, go click it over there, go open the window and click it. And it's obviously got a lot of innuendo here. Like, he's just sitting in his cuck chair across from the bed, but he's real bossy for a cuck. I feel so ridiculous saying this. Yeah, so it's kind of like, I don't know, you're kind of like a sex worker who's been paid to do this and being told what to do and what not to do. But the gameplay is literally just clicking this thing 10,000 times and occasionally moving around the room based on instructions for it. It was a weird game. I didn't like it at all. I found it very, very tedious. There was a few moments where I was like, oh, this is kind of uncomfortable. I like being uncomfortable. But otherwise, it was just like, why am I doing this? Maybe that was the point. Why would anyone do that? But yeah, I wasn't a fan. And lastly, a game that I retired is 9 Souls, developed by Red Candle Games. I talked about this a little in my Metroidvanias of the Year video. Take everything that I'm going to say with a grain of salt, because I'm apparently one of like 4 people who didn't like this game. This is a Metroidvania where you play what are you? some kind of fox creature. I don't know. It starts out as like, oh, you're in a little small town, and then a twist happens, and it's like, oh, actually things are not as they appear. And I liked the twist. I didn't like playing the game, like, at all. It's supposed to be it bills itself as a Sekiro-like, so Sekiro is not a Souls game. Just wanted to put that out there. But it's very much parry-based. Like, all the combat is very, very parry-based. If you can't get good at parrying, you're not going to enjoy this game. I did not enjoy this game for multiple reasons. First of all, so much dialogue. I don't play Metroidvanias for the dialogue, and every time I was kind of getting into a groove with the game, I'd meet a new character and they would just not ever shut up. And then I would just like completely lose any momentum I had. Overall, I just like, it's a pretty game, but the platforming's not particularly interesting. The parrying didn't feel rewarding. Like, even when I successfully parried, I didn't feel like I had gained anything except the ability to not die. Like, there was no cool counterattack or anything, no like moment of invulnerability that would give me a chance to catch my breath. It was just like, parry, don't die, keep going. I found everything kind of slow and clunky feeling, and overall I just felt like it's a punishing game. Like, I like challenging games, like, depending, Hollow Knight, people think is challenging, which when it was the first time I played it, really liked that. Eterna Noctis, like the hardest Metroidvania I've ever played, really liked that. But this is just punishing. Like, I constantly felt like, even if when I was doing good, it would just like turn around on me so fast. If I died, you lose not only any XP towards your next level, you also drop all of your money. So you're losing 2 currencies when you die, unless you go back to your body to retrieve it. The checkpoints are all fairly far away. A lot of the platforming involves just sort of like waiting for platforms to appear so that you can get to them. Enemies will like knock you back into spikes and things. I found fighting multiple enemies at a time just a nightmare. Your one sort of, I guess, special move isn't fun to use. Like, you build it up and then you sort of dash through someone and put a bomb on them, and it just, I don't know, it just didn't feel good. It didn't feel like a fun move to do. So yeah, again, I'm like one of 2 people who don't like this game, but I just found it was punishing more than challenging, and it just didn't feel good to play, so I stopped. All right, that was a long video, I think, but that is all of the games that I played in December. Leave me a comment, let me know what you played, if you got any interesting pickups, what you're interested in playing in the coming months. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. If you want to see more, go check out my best games of 2024 video or another video. I have a Patreon if you want to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.